Well, welcome. My name is Heidi, and this is going to be a short prenatal practice specifically for those expecting and should be accessible for anyone in their first, second, or third trimester. Of course, you should always listen into your body and decide if a movement or a breathing practice is appropriate for you. And you can always skip something if the need arises. You can always modify, make it your own practice, and always feel free to consult your medical care team to make sure this is appropriate for you. So I trust that everyone is doing that. And I'm just going to start seated in a chair. So just find a comfortable position in seated where your knees are below your hips, and always helps us sit upright a little bit more when our knees are level or below the hips. And I do that today by sitting up on a blanket. So you may choose to elevate yourself by sitting up on something. And just feel yourself growing taller, elongating your spine. You might start to play around with movement from side to side, leaning forward and back on the pelvis, and just deciding where that sweet spot of upright and ease is in your body. You might notice you tend to bring onto one side or the other. Just getting some movement here, connecting to the pelvis. We might even sit up for a moment and send the hips back and then sit back down, sometimes holding onto the chair. That way helps us feel more upright. And once you really find your position, just take a moment to roll the shoulder blades down the back. And I like us to add in a little bit of breath here. So inhaling to lift the shoulders towards the ears. Big exhale, sigh out through the mouth as you release them down and back. Inhale to lift up. Exhale down and back. One more like that. You can close the eyes if that feels okay for you, or you might keep a soft gaze forward, noticing your feet on the ground. We might lift the heels a little bit, lift the toes, and then root back down onto the ground. Start to come into awareness of the tops of your thighs, the pelvis, the sides of the hips, feeling the chair beneath you. And then just gradually start to come into an awareness of your belly. So depending on how far along you are, your bump might be really small, and just even starting that connection in your first trimester can be really nice just to establish a connection. Like your baby can feel you connected to it. And of course, if you're further along, you might feel more activity there. And either with the eyes closed or soft gaze, just bring the awareness into this little being growing beneath your hands, no matter what stage you're at. Just kind of imagining it there, growing inside your uterus, being supported by your breath and by the placenta, and not thinking too much about the details of your baby growing, but just finding connection there and imagining what your little baby might look like. And then just keep one hand on your belly and start to move the other hand up to your heart. And come into a felt sense of what it feels like to have a beating heart and to feel your heart, maybe your heart rate feels like it's increased a lot in your pregnancy so far. True that you are pumping up to 50% more the volume of blood than you normally do. Your heart is working really hard. And just make a connection between your heart and your baby's heart, dropping an imaginary line down, connecting your two hearts. And then start to come into deeper awareness of your breath. And just gently feeling your chest rise, feeling the breath in the lungs and emptying out, feeling it lower. And remembering that just like your hearts are connected, your heart is supporting baby's heart and growth, so too is your breath. Your breath is connected to your baby's breath. You're delivering oxygen to your baby each time you breathe in, moving out the old energy and CO2. And it really is a symbiotic relationship between you and your baby. So just take a moment here to feel into connection, heart to heart, breath to breath. And just take that final deep breath here again, like we did when we were rolling the shoulders, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Keeping this connection can be important as you move throughout your day, as you feel aches and pains, as your body is, whatever comes up in your pregnancy, recognizing it's not just an aching body, but you're also supporting a life. And there's a lot going into that that causes change in our own body. And just trusting in the magic and the mystery of it. Feeling how we feel and reconnecting. And then from here, just releasing your arms down. We're going to start some movement in the spine. So it's out a little bit wider. We're going to lean forward and open up through the chest and pull the shoulder blades closer together, leaning forward, opening up through the heart. Take a nice inhale here. You might get a little stretch across the front of the neck. And then as you exhale, we're gently going to lean back and round out through the spine, bringing the shoulder heads forward. And then inhale to come forward. And exhale to round back. Now we're not trying to scoop the belly in towards the spine. We're just allowing it to come along for the ride as we find this movement. Inhaling forward and exhaling back. Inhaling forward and exhaling back. As you can see, I have to move my legs out a little bit wide to create space for my baby. And maybe that's you as well if you're also a little bit further along. You want a comfortable position in the legs and in the pelvis. Exhaling back. One more like that, inhaling forward and exhaling back. Good. And then next time we come forward, we're going to do a circle over to the left side and then back and then over to the right side and then forward. Nice and slow and easy here. Couple of circles, tuning into our hearts, tuning into our breath. And if you feel like going a little faster, you can. And you can also move your shoulders along for the ride if that feels nice. Maybe it feels nice to engage the body a little more. One more going that same direction, and then we'll reverse and start to go the other way. Notice if there's any tension or rigidity in your jaw or your throat. And just sometimes being aware of it can help us start to soften those areas. Releasing out your neck. Feeling connection to baby as you start to move more. And recognizing that your movements are your baby's movements as well. Baby's coming along for the ride. Take another nice deep breath here in that circular movement. Good, and come on back upright, roll the shoulder and back. Come into some shoulder movement before we stand up. So just taking the arms out and moving them here. Sometimes we start to get pressure in the lower back, and working the upper back can help us start to alleviate the pressure there. So just arm and shoulder movement, you can go faster or slower. And then pointing the palms up. Just noticing if the center of the body is coming along for the ride. Trying to keep it in the arms. You might already start to feel the heart rate increasing. I can start to feel mine too. Good. And then relax the shoulders down and back. Let's take the thumbs together. So they're nice and even. And bring the arms up overhead and then back down. Up and down just a couple times here. Just to warm up our arms. Another breath. Good. And then take the hands apart, move the shoulders down and back. Take the chin in towards the chest and just gently roll the neck side to side. Might go a little slower. Come on back to center, roll the shoulder blades down the back. And prepare yourself to stand up now. So we're just gently coming up. You might use the support of your chair to come upright. And you can always use your chair to hold on to if you need a little more stability. So coming into standing here, I'm going to lift the left leg and just practice opening and closing the hip a couple times, like we're coming into a tree pose, but not all the way. Just warming up that hip and taking a deep breath. Evening out between sides, going over to the right. Just firmly planting the left on the ground, using the chair for stability. Always using it if you need it. Keeping the gaze soft and steady. And just finding that range where you can isolate the movement in the leg and the hip. Good. Good. And then just come on back to standing mountain pose. And you might play around with your posture here. So feet are about hip distance, maybe wider. I'm going wider because that feels nicer in my current state. And you might play around with moving the legs forward and back, lifting the heels and then lifting the toes. And also you find that movement in your pelvis forward and back. And then I might play around with balancing on one side and then the other. Just noticing how like maybe our center of gravity feels different. Good. And then soften the knees a little bit, sink down and back into a mini chair, stretching out through the glutes. Take a breath here. Soften your belly. You can feel the tops of the thighs working a little bit, and then stand up tall. From here, move my camera a little bit. From here, we're going to take a side stretch. So we're just gonna bring the right arm up, kind of move it a little bit up and down so we get the arm movement, and then let the arm be still. So we're not gonna overextend through the elbow or the shoulder, but we're gonna let the arm move along with the side body. So just reach it up and over, and then go a little further, the whole side body moves. And take a big deep breath here into your side body. Big deep inhale, big deep exhale, big deep inhale. And then on the exhale, back upright. Release your shoulder. You might feel that difference between sides. And then we'll go to the other side, get it up, go move it up and down a few times just to warm up the arm and feel like what it feels like to just move the arm, and then connect it to the whole side body. Give your elbow a little bend and then reach it over. And take that big breath here. Inhale and exhale. One more big breath. Inhale. And as you exhale, come on back upright. Roll your shoulders down the back. I've got one more standing thing for us. So we're going to find a high position on the chair or whatever piece of furniture you have. Just make sure it's stable. And let's hold on to it. I'm going to keep the shoulders high for a moment and start to bend the knees and walk the legs back. And then start to engage your lower back, engage your pelvis, and see if you can find a stretch sensation in the back of the sitting bones and the glutes. And so we're going to arc the back a little bit as we push back and then round up a little bit. So it's this subtle movement in the pelvis and in the lower back. We might feel it a little bit in our upper back, almost like a cat-cow, but a little bit more targeted. And as you can see, I need to move my feet a little wider to create space for my baby. So just one more like that, pushing the sitting bones back, spreading here, getting that stretch through the backs of the hips, and then rounding up. And then we might push it back a little further and straighten the arms a little more and stretch through the whole spine. Take a deep breath in and deep breath out. Deep breath in and deep breath out as you start to slowly, carefully, take your time, walk upright. Good, and we're going to end here either in standing or seated, taking those 3 deep breaths. And I encourage you to take a slower, longer exhale as we finish our practice today. So inhaling, lift the shoulders towards the ears, slow exhale out the mouth. Lower them down and back. Inhale, lift. Slow exhale out the mouth. Like you're blowing on something hot. One more like that. And then we can finally come back to our heart, baby's heart. Just a little bit of movement. You might feel an increase in your heart rate. Tune into your body. Tune into your breath. And I hope you have a great rest of your day, honoring the heart that is working to sustain and grow a life, honoring your spirit, your breath, and your journey. I bow to you.